The Jeanneau Marlin 795 with the Yamaha engines should be very easy to maneuver both at sea and at these conditions in the harbor. We believe the choice of Yamaha engines should be a sign of safety, reliability and low maintenance. Skjervoy Fiskecamp is using Motor Marine. We are a well-known Yamaha dealer and a professional dealer for Yamaha. We are focusing 100% on safety. Therefore, we will do maintenance according to Yamaha's regulation. That means every 100 hours, all the engines will be 100% maintained, the boat as well. We will have knowledge about the customers, where they are, their phone numbers, so we can contact them. They can contact us as well. The coast area where these boats operate will be in GSM coverage. We will have full communication possibilities at all times.
I've been fishing in Skjervoy since April 2004. And the fleet of boats has evolved from the little tinnies with an outboard engine on the back up through the current range. And when I found out that they were going to invest in a new fleet of Jeanneaus, I was really excited because I review a lot of fishing boats in the UK and Jeanneau are one of my favourite brands. What are the key advantages for a group coming here renting a boat of that quality?
We believe the boats are designed with moving around everywhere is easy. It's a 3-door version. You can go both sides out. You can come from the cockpit and from the helm easy. I think people will experience the outboard solution, very easy to operate and manage. And the maneuverability of the boats should also be much better.
Apart from the safety factors and the quality of the build, from my perspective as an angler, they really are built for fishermen, especially the Jeanneau Marlin range. I mean, the freeboard is perfect. They've got a fantastic amount of deck area. You can work either side of the cabin. I mean, for 4 or possibly even 5 fishermen, they can all fish on those perfectly. Do you agree? Or?
Yes, of course. We really believe the walk-around design of the boats. It makes it very easy to be lots of more people in the boat with the possibility to move around easier. The recessed side decks also is an extremely important safety feature. You don't have to climb to get in the front of the boat. You can easily walk around.
No, you're absolutely right. They really are a boat that have been designed by fishermen. For fishermen. I mean, I fished on the slightly smaller Marlin 755 yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I've reviewed them in the UK, but that's only been an hour or two. I had a full day's fishing on it, and it's a beautiful fishing platform. And the boats that you're going to supply are the bigger 795.
Really? Yes.
115 horse engine.
Of course.
Fantastic fuel economy. But I'm particularly encouraged by the safety features. I mean, you have the automatic identification system, whereby you will know exactly where every boat is at any one time.
We can track them as well.
Well, it's been great meeting you, great talking to you, and I'm sure on my trips to Skjervoy we'll meet again, but I'm sorry, Ant.
Yeah?
Conditions are good, I'm going fishing.
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
Good luck.
Okay, looking at the sea conditions, you might well think that this is the middle of summer, but actually it's the first week of October, and most of the fishing camps in the far north of Norway have shut down for the winter. But we've come up to trial these new Merry Fishers, and the first couple of hours of today's session were really good. Catching plenty of fish, up to about 15-20 pounds maybe the biggest. Nothing huge, nothing like the size we're hoping to get. But given conditions like this, we can go pretty much anywhere we want. And when the tide starts running in an hour or so's time, I'm confident we're going to see a lot more fish again. We're fishing at a Skjervoy on one of the first of the brand new fleet of Merry Fisher Marlin boats that the camp's upgrading to. All new for the 2018 season. And it's hard to imagine that the first time that I fished here was in April 2004, at which time I was with the first party of British anglers to fish from the camp, which subsequently went on to become probably the best known camp in the far north of Norway. And given the investment in these new boats, I can see that that's going to be a reputation that can only go from strength to strength. Not certain if the mic's picking up the noise from the engine. It's a good policy to adopt, especially if you're fishing on your own. And at this time of the year, October, there are very few boats around, so I'm happy to keep the engine running. But it was actually Knut that we were fishing with aboard Skjervoy when we did a TV programme fishing the midnight sun. And it was actually in the same area that we're fishing now. System of banks and reefs off the mouth of the Kvaangen fjord. It's pretty much been the most consistent spot we've fished the last 3 days. There's been lots of surface activity in some areas of the fjord and around the islands, mostly small coalfish. I actually caught a mackerel earlier, which is kind of crazy when you think we're fishing over 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle and it's, you know, we're in October catching mackerel, but Knut tells me they never used to catch them up here, and first saw them a couple of years back, then generally only in the summer, and now they're a regular visitor.
This first time with this boat, we have start of October. And I think the boat is nice. Today we have a lovely weather, of course, but if you're going to more further out, a little bit rougher weather, you can be more sheltered inside and it's wider. So it's a boat that this Jeanneau boat is it's a better boat. And it's also equipped with a nice Yamaha outboard engine, so you get maybe 25 to 30 knots, so you can go further out. It's heating system inside, so yeah, it's a really good boat. We are now in the start of October. It's actually a little late in the fishing season, but last years this has been coming herring inside in end of October, November. Also been there to January, and together with that we had a lot of orcas, sperm whales, and a lot of whales around, so it can be a bonus just outside Skjervoy. It's no guarantee, of course, but it's looking to be good, and you can still get fish. Maybe not so much that you have in July or August, but you can still catch a lot of fish, and you see here Dave has a good one on.
No, it's a big one by Norwegian standards, but like all the fish up here, there's plenty of fight in them, Knut.
Yeah, and we have a lot. I think we have 8-10 fishes now.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Yeah, so it's still fish. Can be a little bit more difficult to find, but it is still here. Nice one.
It's a nice one, Knut.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
I mean, in the summer, I mean, you'll catch a lot more, but
yeah.
what I understand, October, this is a nice size fish.
Yeah, it's a nice size fish. Of course, you can, if you're lucky, you can get it bigger, but it's not so many of them on the shallow parts that is in July and feeding for the shellfish. So.
Let me tell you one thing though, Knut. There might not be so many of these here at this time of the year,
Yeah.
but you won't see many of these in England anymore.
I know that.
If you want fish of this quality, you generally have to get on an aeroplane and come to Norway.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I brought anything other than 4-piece travel rods to Norway. I detest travelling with rod tubes. They cost you a lot of extra money, and there's absolutely no need to bring traditional 2-piece rods. All my rods are 4-piece. A 20 to 30 pound class boat rod, which is perfect for general fishing, for big cod, even sort of quite large halibut, and a 4-piece spinning rod. This is 9 foot, probably a little bit too long, but it's rated to cast 50 to 80 grams, which is sort of 2 to 4 ounces, which is perfect for fishing the small and medium sized shads. But again, all 4-piece travel rods pack easily in my case. Both reels are loaded with braid. At the end of the braid I use a 12 to 20 foot monofilament leader. On the 20 to 30 pound class rod it's about 80 to 100 pound clear monofilament. On the lighter spinning rod I use 40 to 50 pound clear monofilament leader. Well, as you can see, I'm wearing a life jacket. It's one of the automatic inflating waistcoat types, which are very comfortable. Put them on at the start of the day and within no time at all you forget you're wearing it. I'm as guilty as the next man. I don't always wear a life jacket for that guilty as charged, but you should, every time you go to sea, on a small boat especially, wear a life jacket. The flotation suits that some of the camps provide are very good. but that's all they are, is a flotation suit stroke buoyancy aid. The difference between a buoyancy aid and a life jacket is that a life jacket will always maintain an unconscious casualty head above the water. So at the start of the day, the first thing you should do is warm the engine up. Turn the batteries back on, 2 batteries, one does the engine, one powers the electronics. Start the engine, make sure it's trimmed down and let it warm through. The last thing you want to do is your crew to start untying ropes and everything until you're absolutely ready to leave the berth. And ideally the engine will be warmed up to normal running temperature before you untie and start off out through the marina. An important safety aspect of any day's fishing is fuel. The last thing you want to do, especially in a remote area like Norway, is run out of fuel. We always recommend you start the day with a full tank of fuel, regardless of how much running around you intend to do. One of the first principles I was taught when someone was showing me how to drive a boat was you can always make a boat go ahead a little bit faster, but if you approach a situation too fast, slowing it down is a lot more problematic. Whatever situation you're approaching, be it your home berth, the fuel berth, or over at the shop, give yourself as much space as you can, proceed as slow as you can, and if you think that you're not proceeding as you should be and you see something of a problem, another boat maneuvering or a rope in the water, you'll have time to be able to stop, turn around, have a second or a third attempt at what you're doing. With an outboard engine, it's important to remember that not only is it your source of propulsion, but it's also your rudder. Whichever way the engine's pointing, that will direct which way the bow of the boat will turn. With an outboard engine such as the Yamaha we have on the back of here, you've got a power, trim and tilt, but you can control the angle of trim. That's for use in shallow water or when you're trying to get on the optimum angle of trim when the boat's underway. But when you're in deep water in a harbour, the further down the engine's trimmed, the more rudder effect you've got, so the more steerage you've got. Let me just emphasise the point. We're pretty much sat at rest here. We're in Skjervoy Harbour. Push the lever into forward. The gear stick is obviously also a throttle. I'm not increasing the revs beyond the 600, which is tick over speed, and you can see already the boat is moving ahead at something around walking pace. Click it back to neutral and you can see, if you look at the breakwater behind me, the boat is still moving ahead. And you use that to your advantage when approaching a berth. So don't drive all the way up to the berth, stop and expect the boat to stop, because it won't. It's going to cruise into the berth. The idea is to approach a situation slowly, use just enough propulsion, just enough revs to maintain steerage, and even when it's in neutral, with the engine trimmed all the way down, I hope you can see, looking at that breakwater, I've turned the wheel, and 4 or 5 seconds after I went to neutral, the boat is still manoeuvring. So these are little things to sort of practice and get in your mind. Most handling errors are a result of approaching a situation too quickly. Okay, we've left the berth, we're heading out to the harbour for the day's fishing. You're excited, you're on holiday, you can't wait to get out there catching fish. But spend a couple of minutes just to sort of go through a few checklists in your head. Firstly, you want to make sure that all the lines are stowed so they're not going to fall over the side of the boat when you're underway, possibly fouling the engine. Now's the time to get your fenders inboard. Make sure that everything is secure. I mean, ideally a lot of this you will do before you leave the dock, but just try and get in the habit of thinking things through and getting a sequence of events in your mind and then head out. Most harbours, pretty much all harbours, have got some sort of a speed restriction, be it 5 knots, 6 knots, 7 knots. Basically it's no wake. Other boats are moored around. They don't want to see other boats charging in and out. Not only is it dangerous in a confined space, but the wash from your boat will cause other boats unnecessarily to bump around on their moorings. So we're just going to tick out of the harbour quietly. A few more revs, just keep going. That's enough, nice and quiet. And we talked a little bit earlier about the power trim and tilt and finding the optimum angle of trim, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate now. Start off with the engine trimmed all the way down. Once you're out in open water, increase the revs to the approximate speed that you want to cruise at, and then start trimming the engine out. If you over trim it, you'll hear it, it'll start to cavitate if you really over trim it, but you'll hear the tone of the engine pick up, and also you'll develop a porpoising effect with the bow lifting and rising, and if sea conditions are choppy, you'll be crashing and banging. At that point you just trim the engine back in a bit and you'll have a nice slight bow up attitude as the boat cuts through the water, which is your optimum angle of trim for the speed and the conditions and the load capacity or the load rating on the boat you've got at the moment.